Hi, I'm Akhil.
And I'm Rohan now.
Welcome to the Long Take. This week we're discussing the new entry the latest entry in the what's called the Spy Universe, and the third entry in Salman Khan's own series, Tiger 3, which came out I think in Diwali and is now on Prime Video. And yeah, I don't think I was expecting anything from this movie, and basically met my expectations surprisingly. Like it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, but certainly wasn't expecting a lot of the directions that it went in. It's staggeringly dull, but then there are so many oddly interesting things that it does, which I didn't see coming.
Yeah, I feel like think the movie almost like suffers. I feel like sometimes, not sometimes, but I feel like all the time from Salman Khan being in it, who like is either incapable of doing something things or has like no desire. It almost like feels like late stage Vin Diesel in like Fast and Furious. You know, he's like, I've like done this so long, and I have like I'm staying for the money now. Give me the check. I'm going. Thanks. Because the writer is the same as like Pathaan. But like, I feel like it's almost like the acting bringing it down.
No, the acting is obviously a problem, but the weird thing about this movie is that it sometimes feel like he's trying and failing, as opposed
Yeah.
to
I think when you say that line, I'm instantly reminded of the moment he tries to cry in one scene, and it's like so badly he fails that I start questioning the director, because I'm like, bro, you needed to like tell him to do another take and not keep this one, or maybe he did, and Salman Khan gave him a glare and be like, I'm not doing it again.
But that's likely, right? Salman Khan doesn't do more than one take.
Yeah.
So essentially what you get on first take is your movie. So it's a bit of a miracle that they have something cohesive at all.
और नहीं है तो then body double को ले आओ and then just reshoot the action 1,000 times.
Action तो चलो ठीक है, you can still do, you can swap his face in and out and do all of that. But like the story beats which they have to hit, I mean, this might explain why the story revolves around his wife more than
she will show up again if he want her to.
Yeah, I mean, fully possible, right? Because here, I mean, I've seen a couple of his recent other movies also, and they're like,
oh wow, I think I haven't seen a Salman Khan movie. Like I cannot actually name the last one.
No. So I've seen, I think, most of the recent ones, and just to like periodically remind myself of what rock bottom is, So it's valid. I mean, in those he doesn't try even, he shows up.
I thought like he wasn't trying in this one.
Yeah, imagine. So here it's almost like, so do you remember the cameo that he did in Pathaan, which felt like it was staged in a fun way, but he as a presence was like just sucking it of all energy. But in this one, that lasts like 2 hours 40 minutes, It's
yeah, because it's replaced, right? Like that's what my initial sort of reaction was, like when I told you, is that I feel like the movie would instantly benefit if this was Pathaan 2 and not Tiger 3. It's just like Shah Rukh Khan was the entire time, because that's why even if he's sucking, as you say, the energy in Pathaan, it doesn't matter, because we have been with like Shah Rukh Khan for the entire time, and he's just like, oh, he's here right now. They crack a couple of jokes about like how Bollywood and stuff, and then he goes.
But oddly enough, even when like Shah Rukh Khan shows up in this one, I think maybe because we've seen this before very recently, so it doesn't have the same sort of impact. But the whole post-interval scene where he shows up and they team up is partly also very fake looking, the entire.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, instead of like, I think the problem itself almost is like they could not get Shah Rukh Khan to commit to like a, outside Indian schedule. But if you're getting an actor of his caliber and you're teaming up and you're doing like a dual scene with these two, which is like connecting to different things, and what people are really basically like waiting for the entire movie, that has to be set in a real location. Like, like you've gone to Istanbul, you've gone to St. Petersburg, bring him in those moments, right? Like, don't go to like whatever, I think they went to Mud Island and then shoot this fake looking nonsense.
I mean, yeah, the bridge could have been set up in like YRF, like we watched an entire series which seemed like it was filmed inside a studio.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they just made that bridge ka dhancha and everything else was
That's the problem, right? You can tell the moment they tell it's introduced, just the lack of horizon, just the lack of detail. You can tell like nothing is real in that scene. It's almost like, like Avengers 2012 level, like recreating New York level fake.
And this is like a running problem with this entire movie, right? Just when you're like, oh, Acha, that's an interesting idea in terms of just narrative, you're just immediately like, oh, why this? It shouldn't look this, you know?
Yeah. Especially when, like, because they have been going around at least like, before the movie release, not now, of like talking about how much they spent on it. It's like the most expensive one yet in this franchise. I'm like, where is the money then?
वो सलमान खा गया ना सब.
Yeah. I guess which is what bound to happen, right? If you keep getting the same actor in Salman and Katrina again and again, you have to like give them more. That's how franchises work. So I'm sure like they take up a bigger percentage with every entry.
But more than just the flat visuals and stuff, I felt like the writing, not the story, but just the dialogue kind of lacked any sort of zing. Especially in that cameo, and that cameo sequence, the 20-minute thing is kind of emblematic of the entire movie, right? Because all the problems that kind of sink this as an experience, you can observe in that 20
Yeah, you can trace it back to that. Like that's the microcosm. It's like functioning. He like
So
insane. They're not able to like match the swagger to so to speak of like what he had in Pathaan.
Yeah. The odd thing is that normally you would expect like it's not like mainstream big budget Hindi movies are like spectacularly written or like anything like that. No, ever. But normally what you can expect is कि अच्छा ये 2-3 star लोग आएंगे और they'll coast on that for like some time.
Yeah, and at least like 2-3 साल आएंगे तो at least they will bring their own writers also, no? And just like rewrite on set. Be like ये नहीं, ये line नहीं चल रही है, जो original writer रखा, इसको बाहर फेंको. This is the new line.
The odd thing also is that this movie is directed by Manish Sharma. Now Manish Sharma he's done one like romantic drama in the past and one oddly like efficient thriller, right? And Fan is a good movie. It's one of those movies that almost alienated Shah Rukh's fans because it was kind of mean-spirited towards them.
Yeah,
which is really
like give them what they wanted.
It didn't give them what they wanted initially, or like that's but like the movie star character in that movie, Fan, isn't a nice person. So people walked into it probably expecting like to see like a version of Shah Rukh, but they came out seeing this really arrogant movie star who doesn't really care for his fans, which just pretends to like them. And that might have felt a little weird. But the thing here with this movie also is that it's playing to his Salman's fans in the scenes that he's there. But as a movie, I can imagine people being like, excuse me, ये भाई is है नहीं इसमें real, like he's not, the story does not revolve around him. He's just coming in to kind of essentially like save his wife and his family.
Yeah.
But the movie opens with like a flashback for like the Zoya character.
Yeah, the heart of this movie, like the thematic or like whatever is with clearly Zoya, right? That's like, I think that was actually my favorite part of the movie, what you just mentioned, like before they introduced like the villain, like, or Salman comes on screen. I'm like, this movie was actually like going well so far.
No, the opening, the pre-title thing where the flashback thing was actually nicely done. It was very unexpected also. It felt a little grounded,
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, this is strange. I didn't expect this. And if the movie had retained that tone, you could almost sense that there's a germ of an idea here, because we see glimpses of it through the course of the film, right? The movie has a lot of almost radical notions, and I'm not just saying for like a mainstream 300 crore ka Hindi movie, right? Like any movie in this day and age, if it were to essentially be about a Pakistan entirely, right? In an age where like everyone's like falling over themselves to make like the next nationalist hit.
Yeah, basically like Mission Majnu.
Correct. This movie is entirely about Pakistan.
Yeah, and I feel like it's set like half in Pakistan and like 0% in India.
There's nothing about India in this movie.
Yeah.
In itself is insane, right? Like on paper, if you pitch it, you're like, हाँ sir, हमें एक picture बनानी है.
Yeah, we're making Pakistan like for the target audience is mostly Indians, but the entire movie will be outside Indian, and the only Indian character will be Salman Khan, and and maybe we'll show the prime minister and like the raw chief for like 5 seconds.
5 seconds. No, this movie could realistically play as a nationalist movie, but for Pakistan. You know?
Yeah.
And it's not like it's saying that that's like a barbaric land or anything, you know, people are
No.
mean or like
Which is what Mission
evil.
Majnu did.
Yeah, it's not like doing the other thing. It's oddly empathetic towards them, you know, and in more than one occasion, it refers to Pakistan as a country as like the in-laws and stuff, you know, like it's family.
Yeah. Which is literally, I guess, dialogue. It's not even trying to be like subtext about it.
No, तू 2-3 बार भाई बोलते हैं
Yeah.
कि घर में
Like,
प्रॉब्लम होगी
कि
तो मुझे
बुलावा आया है तो उधर जाना पड़ेगा और हेल्प करना पड़ेगा.
yeah, which is like kind of insane and kind of impressive also. Like I have to give the movie that. Like you thought that this was like you came up with it, people okayed it.
And the
You
movie
spent-
is about that, right? Like it's repeated through the speech later of the prime minister.
Mm.
Is that it's about like building bridges. Like that's the entire movie is trying to like build bridges. It's like no, like instead of making war, like make love.
Yeah, which is very because how many movies have we seen only in like post-pandemic era which have like
Yeah, all about inflaming tensions, right? Not like
yeah,
calming them down. Like there, in the real world, there's not been like even a hint of a peace talk because like that could not happen in the Modi India.
And speaking of he who must not be named, this movie is almost it's doing what Hansal Mehta did with his film, right, which we didn't like, was called
Faraz.
Faraz, correct, right? It's essentially using a foreign country, a neighboring foreign country to comment about India, right? And here they just happen to choose Pakistan, but the movie is actually about dictatorship, right, and democracy.
Those are like very thinly veiled statements, as well you can do in today's environment without like your movie getting censored off the chart.
Yeah. So they've like you don't have to make a like as we've spoken before. You're not making like a sci-fi movie or like a satire or whatever. Like you can just do this, and this is an easier way to kind of get your message across.
You're still set in the real world, right? I think it's gonna have a larger impact than when you do a sci-fi.
Yeah, or you just do what like Shah Rukh did in Jawan, where like looked into the camera and said, "Excuse me, listen."
Yeah, or that. We just like we literally talk to the people and like go vote and change the country.
No, so as like this, as like a concept, this entire movement where they're spending thousands of crore rupees, right, in an effort to advocate for like progressive politics and to tell people that please open your eyes, this, that. I find that very impressive. Now, I don't know if people are receptive to, like people were obviously receptive to Jawan, but I think that was more to do with just who was starring in it because nobody really knew what it was about. But here, you know, you watch the movie and I'm sure word spreads pretty quickly. Like, oh, like this movie isn't what Bhai fans would have imagined it to be. And he doesn't really have that sort of goodwill to pull people in and, you know, hold their attention for a long period of time, whatever. This is different audience, you know. So I don't know if, for instance, if anybody else was starring in this movie, it might have just worked better. Obviously the acting would have been better, but that's a given. But just in terms of the message that the movie wants to convey also would have been received probably in a different way had someone else been starring in it. The Salman Khan is not the ideal like vehicle for this sort of...
Yeah. He's basically not the ideal vehicle for like this franchise itself. Like to think that a franchise which has had like, what, 5 entries and 3 of them have... They're like, you're basically like banking on Salman Khan as your Robert Downey Jr. here, right? And it's just like you're setting up yourself up to fail.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, you know, the first 2 were just standalone movies because they didn't really have this in mind.
They were like retconned, right? Like they were like retrofit into being a franchise, I think, the first one.
Yeah, and the first one is like actively like unwatchable, you know, and it's barely even a spy movie.
I haven't seen, actually. I should probably have made this full display at the start of the podcast. I haven't seen 1 or 2.
So 2 is more refined, although it is also stupid. I mean, I think in the second one, it opens with Bhai wrestling wolves, you know?
Oh, so like Leo.
Yeah, like Leo. And, but that's more of a grounded in the real world
right.
sort of. as compared to the first one. This one is obviously
Yeah, this is clearly like you can tell when you watch this one in Pathaan that they sort of have the same like writer because of just like this guy's brought up on like like James Bond and like the kind of Mission Impossible sort of like vein, and that's what he wants to channel. That's why his movies are always globetrotting.
Yeah. Both the Raghavan brothers, they're cine literate at least. We'll give them that. But the thing with
which is why I think that these movies are like they have this progressive idea, right? Because he's the writer, like I think responsible for it. Like maybe if you hand like Tiger 4 or whatever, like whatever is coming next, I was Pathaan in a different writer's hands, those progressive ideas might like go out the door very quickly.
But see, the thing with the writing of this movie is that like we've spoken about, like I admire the thought behind it. I admire some of the ideas, but then a lot of the success, especially for movies like this, depends on how well the writing is meshing with the movie stars inherent.
I also like beat by beat, right? Like if you're like scene by scene construction, which is gonna be down to the director and the editor, is not handled well, then a writer can't do jack.
Yeah, they can't really. But what he got away with in Pathaan, he isn't able to get away with in this movie.
Yeah,
even though he gives Salman Khan a lot of opportunity to kind of just flex the Salmanness, like swag se ka hoga swagat, but that really doesn't feel organic in that moment. Even though the fact that you have to repeat 3 times ke, oh, I'm going to save the in-laws, that's a fun joke the first time he says it, and I get it. But then why resort to it over and over again? Even the villain is interesting and the performance is interesting, but it feels like it belongs.
It's probably the best performance of anything of the movie.
Yeah, I was very surprised actually, which is kind of unfortunate also. Like Emraan Hashmi in his entire life, I think has done one good performance, right? Which was in Shanghai, which nobody watched, that Dibakar Banerjee movie. And now he's like probably got the biggest audience of his career, and he kind of is, yeah, you're right. He's by far like the most superior performance of this movie, even though the character is kind of like one note.
Yeah, which I think is just like a facet of like making action from the beyond the point. Like it's very rare to find a proper 3-dimensional like villain. Like like it's like rare. It's like Black Panther level rare.
It's also like decent casting as opposed to like Pathaan. When Pathaan
but also I think because the movies like in that one it's almost like disposable villain, right?
No, but I really liked the villain in that. Like in terms of a character, I like that villain better.
Because I'm saying the character's only like interesting facet was that he doesn't care about like nations. Like he's like whatever. Like you can keep fighting, do your petty fights. I'm here for myself.
His motivations were more personal, but just I mean, anybody else in that role would have just made that character better. But this one, it's more like global annihilation.
Yeah, this one is obviously ideology driven. Right?
Yeah, and
he's in it for like grievances. Like while the movie is like being super like let's hug and like each other, he's like, no, I'm gonna blow up India for good.
There is like randomness also, right? I don't remember this character, but apparently he's Salman's adopted son. He shows up and dies.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the first 2 movies, so I couldn't make head or tails of it until I started digging through Wikipedia. And apparently he's from the second movie.
I don't have zero memory of this person. I mean, probably a different character.
I'm more curious about like, how old do you think their son is? The actual biological son?
Like 13?
Does that make sense? I mean,
even though he's like the one who's kidnapped and has to be like saved/rescued, he doesn't really factor into the movie at all.
Yeah. It is not like useful. It's just like
it's not even like that Shahid Kapoor thing that we watched where his son gets kidnapped and he sees his son and then he loses the son again.
Okay. Yeah, but the only like just I couldn't stop laughing when Emraan Hashmi, he's supposed to be serious, but like he was like, "Maine usko kya siren nerve hi there." I'm like, bro, that one kills you in like I think a few minutes or hours. There's no like antidote or like delaying medicine for it. But sure, because your audience is like you think your audience is so dumb that they can believe such garbage. Get on.
Or Emraan Hashmi went to the Leo School of Drug Studies, where they were selling drugs that kill you when you take them.
there are admittedly like very stupid things in both, like, I think Pathaan and Tiger 3, but I think those are the kind of things you just have to be like, okay, then I accept it. Now what are you gonna do with it?
I mean, that's the problem with this movie, right? One of the bigger problems is that it's not goofy enough. It's
I think that would just like kill the movie more because Salman could not like deliver 1% of it, which is weird because this is the same guy who was in Andaz Apna Apna like decades ago. So like, where did he lose that ability or muscle?
That part is, I think, gone. I don't remember the last time he was funny.
Yeah, like it's weird. Like it's like both. Right? Like Akshay Kumar also like and him like have just like ditched their comedic roots and embraced this like macho persona for like ages now.
They do those quips, but like even those are like very flat, you know. But even Shah Rukh comes and everything.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing was actually, I think the towel fight with like the bathhouse in Katrina Kaif. That was like, because that's physical comedy, right? Like that's, I think that worked for me more than any dialogue they tried. I mean, like literally, like I feel like the action. I'm not kidding, but I felt sometimes that action was slowing down because like Salman could not move his limbs fast enough. I like felt that, and I was like, why would that happen? Couldn't they just put the body up and then
short?
Like, why does it feel like his actions are slower than Katrina's actions?
I mean, I'm sure 90% of it wasn't him. Like, I fully find that impossible too.
Yeah, so then why would you slow it down? Like, why did Fish the like he used to take ages to move his arms and legs, and I'm like, bro.
On the first like action scene where he's on the bike is like he's rubber, right? Because like nothing in that entire sequence is real. Even his face does.
It's weird, man. Like that you have the money to go to St. Petersburg in Istanbul in Austria, sorry, not Australia. And then you can't go to a desert. Like Jordan is right there. They keep inviting everyone.
Did I mishear something, or did they keep calling one location in Austria Firang Street twice?
Did they? I missed that.
Firang Street twice. Firang Street pe jana hai.
Wouldn't put it past this movie. And the only thing that falls for this movie, which like does think in terms of its politics, is that the forced nature. You know, where I feel like that every Bollywood does that of like forcing Urdu words in like Muslim characters, like sentences. And then the other thing was like when they had to play the Indian national anthem.
Listen, at that moment, whoever came up with it, he got like a handshake, a medal, and a raise. Like
got like Paramveer Chakra.
Okay, what an idea, dude. Like we have one.
Bro, like imagine, like why can't you just play? Like you've been progressive so far. Just play the Pakistan national anthem and win like awards from every like critic. I would have praised the movie if I'd done that.
No, but in their
they had to spoil that moment and play the Indian national anthem.
But in their heads, so they've just hit two birds with one stone. Na like हमने भी Pakistan कर दिया, but then end में Pakistani लोग India का national anthem, like Pakistani बच्चे, not even Pakistani grown men.
Like कब सीखा उन्हें मुझे भी नहीं पता. While they were kidnapped inside, they were learning. In case Tiger saves us, we must know this song.
Yeah. Full band. And then Salman also does like, that's the only moment in the entire movie where I felt that Bhai was genuinely moved. Like, I don't know where he was in the world where they filmed that mid shot of him. Like, he could have been anywhere. But he felt, which just goes to show that even 5% performance would have just really elevated the entire movie if he had given that same level of commitment to it. But
it's going to be a problem, right? Like in the sequel there, because like right now we've said like, you know, like Pathaan was better because like, it has more Shah Rukh, but the next one they're going to try to like do like half half Salman, half Shah Rukh. It's like, and it's going to be like, oh, the movie's good now, or the movie's terrible now. The movie's good now, or the movie's terrible now.
I mean, that would be really weird. I mean, it would be worse if they're like in it together mostly. That would be really odd. I don't know what to make.
One guy can emote, one guy can't emote.
Like it'll be two different energies in the same. That won't happen. Like they can't work together. I don't think they can work together beyond like a week. So I don't know.
So they'll just give them like parallel plot lines?
Or they'll just do some green screen stuff. Na ke just pretend as if wo hai side mein. Whole movie they've shot the double.
Uska face chipka do like Winklevoss social network style.
Which they do, you know, very often these days, especially with these people, because, you know, bhai can't move, bhai can't act. So
he literally can't move, I'm telling you.
have you heard that bhai, there's not even like a rumor. You know what he does for his endorsements?
What?
So he has apparently like a room at his house or something, like some empty camera where he just does the same pose, right? Like, and they take like pictures of him and then they just insert whatever product. So a lot of the billboards that you see of bhai like selling whatever like car oil or like some saria or cement or something.
He didn't go. I mean, in that sense, I'm actually gonna like praise him because like that's like peak work from home energy. Like that's the commitment, right? Like in that case, yeah, salute to bhai.
No, and genuinely my theory is that by the time in like say 3 years, 4 years, by the time this whatever Tiger Pathaan thing comes out, if it ever does, they would have evolved to a point where bhai could legit
Shoot the entire movie from there.
at Galaxy. Yeah.
Like Mulan and Jet Li style.
No, so I mean, we laugh at that Mulan thing, but that's where it began.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's where it began. And this is increasingly, like, he can shoot the entirety of this movie, whatever, in his house. And it wouldn't look any better or worse than Tiger 3.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't. I don't know where the money went.
But, yeah, I guess.
Right.
We bounce.
Yeah, time to wrap it up. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review for this episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.